So this week we took a look at the ProQuest historical newspaper database. And for this presentation that I would prepare, it would be for the Family Action Council of Tennessee, also known as FACT. This is an organization that I used in a prior discussion board. So just quick update on that. FACT is a group started in 2006 focusing on public policy in the state of Tennessee and more specifically policies that affect families, faith, life, etc. And it is a Christian organization. So the target audience is families, middle-aged men and women, some older men and women, and for the presentation, using the historical newspaper database and considering my audience, I have chosen to find newspapers on the Roe v. Wade decision in January of 1973. So I chose three newspapers to look at for the bulk of the presentation. I did pull a fourth to continue to add context around the decision, really just for me. I have linked that in the bibliography. I've put that in the bibliography there. So these articles do include op-ed, and they're mostly op-ed. One is more informational, just an article. So the first article I looked at was published on January 23rd, 1973 by the Washington Post, written by John McKenzie, who was a staff writer for the paper at the time. This was an information article with the title, "The Supreme Court Allows Early Stage Abortions." So in his article, McKenzie described what the ruling would allow, which was a protection for women's rights, or as he called it, absolute right to an abortion in the first 3 months of pregnancy. To have an abortion while the decision past the first trimester would be given back to the states to decide. He went on to describe the Chief Justice's decisions of who voted which way for that particular decision. So more informational there. The second article I pulled was by James Kilpatrick, published in the Baltimore Sun on August 12th, 1973. It was entitled "High Marks for High Court Except for Abortion Ruling." He begins with the justice's opinions in the last term, except for the Roe v. Wade decision in January of that year. So Nixon had appointed 4 judges: Blackmun, Rehnquist, Powell, and Berger. Of those four, Rehnquist was the only dissenter in the Roe v. Wade decision. The author talks about the blight of Roe v. Wade as a constitutional ruling for right to privacy, believing that the 14th Amendment did not apply to abortion. That's a due process. He went on to describe another case of free speech, ending the article with his distaste of the Roe decision and being thankful that Chief Justice Berger only produced a few disastrous decisions in a term. Lastly, I chose an article, and this is kind of my anchor article that I would use for the presentation. It was published by the Baltimore Sun on February 12th, 1973. It's by Russell Kirk, a known conservative and famous author of the book The Conservative Mind. In his op-ed on the abortion ruling, he started his first sentence sharing exactly what was wrong with the ruling by saying against state laws restricting abortion. So that's kind of how he viewed the Supreme Court decision, indicating the ruling's power over the state. So he presented 5 social changes the ruling would bring. Simply put, they're as follows. So that would be the fall of the American birth rate, upper middle class and affluent suburb population would decline in the poverty level group, change in political attitudes, so people in favor of abortion consider themselves liberal, and a devaluing of human life. So for the presentation, I would compare and contrast the newspapers of 1973 with the newspapers of 2022 and the opinions amongst writers juxtaposing the attitudes of the Roe v. Wade ruling in 1973 with the overturning of the law in June of 2022. Using Russell Kirk's article, like I said, as my base, I would use his points in my presentation between what happened in 73 and what happened in 22. I think his article is really interesting, just to compare and contrast and would make for a compelling presentation for the group that I've chosen, Family Action Council of Tennessee. Thanks.